President Nicolás Maduro addressed thousands of Venezuelans on Friday in Caracas ahead of next Sunday consultative referendum on the sovereignty over the Guyana Esequiba. The justice system in Peru blocks again on Friday the pardon for dictator Alberto Fujimori. Health authorities in Palestine report more than 100 killed by the Israeli shelling after the resumption of attacks on the Gaza Strip. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Ana Marrero from the teleSUR headquarters in Caracas, Venezuela. Moving with the news, stay with us. President Nicolás Maduro addressed thousands of Venezuelans on Friday in Caracas ahead of next Sunday consultative referendum on the sovereignty over the Guyana Esequiba. The event was part of the Closing Venezuela Toda campaign, which has rallied millions of Venezuelans across the country in defense of the historical nation's rights over the disputed territory. During his speech, President Maduro gave a comprehensive account of the history of the dispute and reiterated the inalienable rights of the country over that territory and called all Venezuelans to vote on Sunday for the dignity and sovereignty of the Bolivarian nation.
The Esequibo is ours. We are going to defend the Esequibo because the Esequibo is ours. So it is a national cause from several generations. We have seen for over years the fight, the struggle of our grandparents, of our great-grandparents since the 19th century, when the British Empire leveraged from Venezuela's weaknesses.
President Maduro also referred to the decision of the International Court of Justice about Venezuela's dispute with Guyana and the media manipulation against Venezuela.
The International Court of Justice decides against Venezuela, and so they manipulated the truth, they bent the truth, but they lost. And I'm going to say that there's a lot of money behind all that. They use the international media. That's why on Sunday, all Venezuelans, apart from our differences, all Venezuelans must go out to the streets in a single voice with a single flag, with our flag, blue, red, and yellow, on the Sunday to vote.
In this context, President Maduro emphasized that 150 years after the dispute over the Esequibo, this issue involves all the people of Venezuela.
Before the Esequibo issue was an specialist issue, but today the Esequibo dispute 150 years later is not a specialist issue, but it is an issue, an affair of all the people, of the youth, the elderly, all Venezuelans. Blessed day in which the National Assembly summoned this referendum to be able, the people of Venezuela could express themselves.
Earlier on Friday, the Vice President of Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez, in a message to the nation, reiterated that the Venezuelan government does not recognize the jurisdiction of the International Court of Justice regarding the territorial dispute with Guyana over the Esequibo. The International Court of Justice this Friday in the Netherlands rejected measures requested by Guyana in relation to the suspension of the consultative referendum on the Esequibo, and in essence, Rodriguez expressed that noting in international law allowed the court to interfere in the internal affairs of a country which will be held on Sunday in the Venezuelan territory. On this occasion, the Executive Vice President, Delcy Rodriguez, took to the opportunity to address the nation and to emphasize that the measure that Guyana was asking for could not be accepted.
Guyana wanted something it couldn't get. So, on the paragraph 40 of the International Court of Justice decision, after reviewing the terms of the Guyanese government, the entity requires rules that these measures cannot be allowed. So these measures were rejected by the International Court, and so Venezuela defended itself because this is an internal affair of the Venezuelan state.
During her speech to the Venezuelan nation, the Executive Vice President also referred to the historical position of Venezuela regarding its legal right over the Essequibo.
Venezuela ratifies, loyal and steady to its historical position, doesn't recognize the mediation of the International Court of Justice on the Essequibo dispute, particularly taking into account the Geneva Agreement in 1966. So in this case, the Guyana's government has requested not to go further on the referendum and to remove the some of the 5 questions.
Jorge Rodriguez, President of the National Assembly, communicated to the people to the defeat of the Guyanese government in the International Court of Justice and expressed its conviction in the Venezuelan people called to vote in favor of the referendum on December the 3rd.
And so the Guyanese government has been defeated on the decision of the International Court, as they requested the removal of 3rd questions on the consultative referendum. So the presentation of our team has been accepted by the International Court of Justice, as it rejected the appeal, the request of the Guyanese government. We expressed our conviction that on December 3rd, all Venezuelan people are going to vote to express their willingness in the compliance of within the frame of the Constitution of Venezuela.
Rodriguez also added Guyana should stop its aggressive statements and respect the Geneva agreements. Rodriguez emphasized that they will not accept any interference or violation of the integrity and sovereignty of the Venezuelan people.
According to the ruling of the International Court of Justice, Guyana must stop its aggressive stance, its provocative stance, and it must respect the Geneva Agreement. So it must stop the warlike stances and the installation of military bases. We insist that the territories still pending to be delimited must be respected in any way. No, in any. We are not going to allow any intervention in any interference on the Venezuela's integrity.
Let's take a very short break, but remember you can now join us on our TikTok account as teleSUR English, where you'll be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and more. Stay tuned for more news. Welcome back to From the South. The justice system in Peru blocked again on Friday the pardon for dictator Alberto Fujimori. The judge who was to decide on Fujimori's release sent the controversy back to the Constitutional Court, which considered as valid a pardon that had already been previously overturned. Alberto Fujimori is serving a 25-year sentence for being a mastermind behind 25 murdered and serious injuries allegedly committed during his administration by a clandestine military squad. On the other hand, the Fourth National Preparatory Investigation Court issued an order to prosecute Keiko Fujimori while formally ordering her to go to trial for the alleged crime of money laundering and criminal organizations as part of the cocktail case investigation. The prosecution has asked for 30 years in prison for the former presidential candidate. The President of Mexico, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, announced a 20% salary increase that will take effect as of January 1st, 2024. During the press conference, the head of state assured that the increase was developed after an agreement between the labor sector and the business sector on the country. López Obrador assured that this measure means the fulfillment of one of his commitments. Since he assumed the presidency, he promised that the minimum wage would be doubled.
If we take into account that in the free zone of the northern border, the salary goes from 88 pesos in 2018 to 375 pesos a day as of January 1st, that is from 2,687 pesos a month to 11,403 pesos a month. This has not happened for at least 50 years, so that is why I say it is historic. What a better way to commemorate the 5 years of our government by showing that progress is possible.
In Palestine, health authorities report more than 100 killed by Israeli shelling following the resumption of the attacks on the Gaza Strip. The Gaza Health Ministry also reported that hundreds of Palestinians were injured as a result of the Israeli aggressions against Gaza, where most of the victims are women and children. Health authorities said that the health system protected by the international law has been affected by the side of the Tel Aviv regime since October 7th. On Friday, local Palestinian media reported that people in Gaza continue to rescue those trapped in destroyed buildings after Israeli attack resumed following the expiration of the week-long truce. The resumption of shelling by the occupying army has destroyed many urban areas in the city of Rafah. In this sense, after the return of the Zionist side, a crowd of Gazans left their homes in the search of safer areas, filling the streets with cars, vans, tractors, mule drum carts, bicycles, and above all, people on foot. A spokesman for the United Nations, Stefan Dujarric, said that the world body regretted the resumption of hostilities in Gaza and Israel.
The Secretary General said he regretted the resumption of hostilities in Gaza and Israel. He urges all concerned parties to swiftly find a way to resume the pause in the fighting and facilitate the release of more hostages. We appeal to the parties not to resort to further military action that can only make the already catastrophic humanitarian situation in Gaza worse and to spare civilians from more suffering.
Arab peoples on Friday condemned the renewed aggression of the Israeli occupation army in Gaza and endorsed their solidarity with the Palestinian resistance. From the capital, Amman, Jordan denounced the massacres committed by the Tel Aviv military forces against the Palestinians. In Qatar, protests took place in Doha in support of Gaza after the Friday prayers and rejected normalization with the Israeli regime. On the other hand, under the title, "They are ready for all options in defense of Palestine," the Yemeni took to the streets in Zana and in the town of Horia and Damar. In Bright, locals also reiterated their support for Gaza and reject the resumption of the Israeli aggression against the eye of the world. D.C. to call for a ceasefire in Gaza as Israel and Hamas resumes fighting after the 7-day truce expires.
I don't think that the pause was humanitarian at all. It should be a permanent ceasefire. It doesn't make sense to bomb all these people, kill all these people, and then just be like, it's okay, we'll pause, and then immediately go back to killing people.
So that's the first thing I saw when I woke up this morning. It was like 3 hours into the end of the ceasefire, and they're blowing up residential neighborhoods, they're killing kids again. And that's the thing, like, it's not a war when you're just blowing up aimlessly. So, I mean, it sucks, and I mean, that's why we're here, because we want a ceasefire, we want it to end, and I mean, more so than anything else, it's just the propaganda that the people in the U.S. see about like being pro-Palestinian, tying us with like Hamas and stuff. It's like, yo, I grew up here. I don't know what Hamas is, but like everyone just wants peace.
Let's take our last break, but before we invite you to join us on our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience. You can scan the QR code on the screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant new coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with teleSUR. When financial break, don't go away. Welcome back. Madagascar Constitutional Court has announced the final results of the presidential elections, backing the victory of incumbent President Andry Rajoelina. The European Union and the United States on Friday led International Court for Andry Rajoelina to ease political tensions in Madagascar after his presidential election win was confirmed by a top court. The Constitutional Court rejected opposition complaints of fraud and said Rajoelina secured 59% of the votes in the November 16 vote. The 49-year-old former party organizer is now cleared to start a second straight term without a need for a runoff.
It is the people's choice at the ballot box. Today, the majority of the Malagasy people have expressed themselves through the presidential elections. The Malagasy people have chosen their president. And so today, I would like to thank the Malagasy people for their wisdom, as I have always said.
At the request of Sudanese authorities, the UN Security Council on Friday and the world body's political mission in the African country revenge by more than 7 months of fighting between two rebel generals. Following a letter from Khartoum demanding an immediate end to the United Nations Integrated Transition Assistance Mission in Sudan, UNITAMS, the Security Council adopted a resolution terminating its mandate as of Sunday. Starting Monday, a 3-month transition period will begin to allow for the departure of UNITAM's personnel and the transfer of its tasks to other UN agencies where appropriate and to the existence favorably. In France, the president of the French Office for Minors, Gabriel Hazan, warns of the high number of cases of sexual violence suffered by minors. The president of the Office for Minors in France stated that around 400 children and adolescents are victims of sexual violence on a daily basis in France. Likewise, the representative of the Office for Minors points out that we all have to fulfill our duties as citizens to denounce these acts. Russian authorities expressed their interest in continuing to work with the Organization of All Exporting Countries. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov, while speaking about Brazil's access to important energy groups, asserted of Moscow's desire to continue participating in the bloc's activity. In turn, the spokesman assured that the OPEC Plus contribute to the stabilization of energy markets, creating conditions for maintaining the prices of the main fuels at a balanced level. And we have come to the end of this brief, but before saying goodbye, we want to thank our audience, especially the audience of Trinidad and Tobago. We're pleased to share our newscast and contribute to provide alternative news sources to the latest world events. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and also on our socials. We're on Facebook, on X, and on Instagram.